Thousands of people rallied on National Mall and across United States on Saturday in a renewed push for gun control measures after recently deadly mass shootings from Uvalde, Texas to Buffalo, New York that activists say should compel Congress to act. Enough is enough. District of Columbia Mayor Muriel Bowser told the second March for Our Lives rally in her city. I speak as a mayor, a mom, and I speak for millions of Americans and America's mayors who are demanding that Congress do its job. And its job is to protect us, to protect our children from gun violence. Speaker after speaker in Washington called on senators who are seen as a major impediment to legislation to act or face being voted out of office, especially given the shock to nation's conscience after 19 children and 2 teachers were killed May 24 at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. If our government can do anything to stop 19 kids from being killed and slaughtered in their own school and decapitated, it's time to change who is in government, said David Hogg, a survivor of 2018 shooting that killed 17 students and staff at Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. A co-founder of the March for Our Lives organization that was created after that shooting and held its first rally in Washington not long afterward, Hogg led the crowd in chants of "Vote them out." An explosion at a chemical factory in southern Iran caused scores of people, the country's state TV reported Tuesday. The report said a leak from an ammonium tank caused the blast on Monday evening in the southern city of Firozabad in Fars province, located about 770 kilometers south of the capital, Tehran. Firemen were able to quickly extinguish the blaze, the report added. According to the chief of the provincial health department, out of 133 injured who were taken to local hospitals, mostly factory workers, 114 were later released after treatment. Authorities on Tuesday reopened a nearby major road that they had closed after the explosion. The factory went online in 2020. Iran occasionally reports incidents of fires or explosions at industrial sites affecting country's infrastructure that are mainly blamed on technical failures. Years of economic sanctions by the West have blocked Iran's access to original spare parts and new equipment. Sensitive military and nuclear sites in Iran have also been the target of attacks over the past years, which Iran has blamed on Israel. In February, a fire broke out at a warehouse full of engine oil and flammable materials at a base belonging to Iran's powerful paramilitary Revolutionary Guard in the western province of Kermanshah, damaging a shed but causing no casualties. A day earlier, unconfirmed reports proliferated online about several explosions heard in northern Kermanshah, a strategic location in Iran with various missiles and military sites. The executive members of the European Union on Friday gave its recommendation for Ukraine to become an official member of the 27 nation bloc. Ukraine had applied to join the EU just 4 days after Russian troops entered the country on February 24. The EU's recommendation comes a day after 4 EU leaders, Germany, France, Italy, and Romania, visited Kiev and vowed to back Ukraine's candidacy. The recommendation will be discussed by the leaders of the EU countries at a summit in Brussels next week. The launching of the candidacy process requires unanimous approval from all the EU members. The Commission also gave its recommendation for Ukraine's neighbor, according to a report by Reuters. EU's Executive Commission head Ursula von der said Ukraine has clearly demonstrated the country's aspiration and determination to live up to European values and standards. She was speaking in a meeting of the College of Commissioners at EU headquarters in Brussels on Friday. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky took to Twitter to thank the EU members and said it is the first step on the EU membership path that will certainly bring our victory closer. Ukraine's entry into EU will be instrumental in ending the ongoing war with Russia. Its membership can help Ukraine militarily, as EU members are bound by a mutual defense clause that requires other members to help a country if it is a victim of armed aggression on its territory. Residents of the Ukrainian city of Severodonetsk have now been effectively cut off from the rest of the country with the fall of the last of the three bridges linking it with its twin city, Lysychansk. This means that Russia now controls a majority of Ukraine's eastern region of Luhansk Oblast, which is populated largely by separatists. Severodonetsk Governor Serhiy Haidai said evacuation and supplies to the city are now impossible as the last bridge over the Siversky Donetsk River no longer stands. In an Instagram post, Haidai said those remaining in the city were being forced to survive in extreme difficult conditions. With the fall of the last bridge, the situation has become quite grim for the remaining Ukrainian soldiers still fighting in the city. Edward Basurin, a military representative of the pro-Russian Donetsk People's Republic, said Ukrainian divisions that are there in Severodonetsk are there forever. They must surrender or die, he said. Most of Severodonetsk has been run over by Russian troops and the last of the civilian population numbering around 500, including 40 children, are holed up at the Azot chemical plant. Last month, Russians lost nearly an entire battalion in a botched attempt to cross Siversky Donetsk River. Hundreds were killed and dozens of armed vehicles were destroyed. The second of the three bridges over the Siversky Donetsk was destroyed on June 11. President Emmanuel Macron faces a tough fight to win an absolute majority in parliament that would allow him to govern with a free hand after a strong showing by a new left-wing alliance in Sunday's first round election. Initial estimates by Ilabe put the hard left veteran Jean-Luc Mélenchon Noob's bloc neck and neck with Macron's Ensemble alliance in the first round with 26.2% and 25.8% respectively. Ilabe projected Ensemble would go to win between 260 to 300 parliament seats, with the mark for an outright majority set at 289 seats on June 19, and forecast the left would secure 170 to 220 seats, a big increase from 2017. With rampant inflation driving up the cost of living and eroding wages, Macron has struggled to build on his re-election in April, with Mélenchon casting him as a free marketeer, more intent on protecting the wealth than hard-up families. In view of this result and the extraordinary opportunity it offers us, the destiny of the common homeland, I call on people next Sunday to defeat the disastrous politics of the majority of Macron, Mélenchon said after the vote. With the second round system, which is applied to 577 constituency across the country, the popular vote in the first round is a poor indicator of who will eventually win a majority the following week. At stake is Macron's ability to pass his reform agenda, including a contested pension reform that would see the French work longer, which he says is necessary to ensure long-term order to the public finances. His opponents on the left are pushing to cut the pension age and launch a big spending drive. Mélenchon's bloc has capitalized on anger over surging living cost and Macron's perceived weakness at connecting with ordinary people. The restaurant that launched McDonald's in Russia in 1990, heralding Moscow's opening after decades of Soviet rule, reopened Sunday with a new name and logo in a potent reminder of the upheaval sparked by the conflict in Ukraine. The US fast food giant announced on May 16 that it would exit Russia in the wake of its Ukraine offensive. In Moscow's Pushkin Square on Sunday, dozens of people gathered outside the Russian incarnation of the fast food restaurant Vikusno Toshka, which means delicious full stop, well before the official noon opening. My whole family went 3 times to McDonald's for a farewell meal. Elena, a programmer and a mother of two, told AFP. Now we are going for a reunion lunch, she smiled. Inside, 31-year-old Oleg, one of the first customers to receive his order, said Vikusna Toshka was delicious, beautiful, and cheap. The restaurant on the spot where the first varied McDonald's opened its doors to long queues and great fanfare in January 1990 is among the first 15 to welcome customers. On Monday, another 50 restaurants are set to open, according to Oleg, general manager of the new group, with the chain then planning to reopen 50 to 100 a week across the country. In the place of golden arches, there is a new logo, two stylized orange fries alongside a red dot on a green background. There are still double cheeseburgers on the menu as well as a wide range of ice creams and desserts, but the Mac prefix no longer appears. Pakistani's Federal Minister for Planning and Development Ahsan Iqbal has urged citizens to drink less tea to keep the economy afloat. Ahsan Iqbal said that Pakistanis could reduce their tea consumption by 1 or 2 cups per day as imports are putting additional financial strain on the government. Iqbal told the reporters that the country has been importing tea by taking loans. The federal budget document for the outgoing fiscal year showed that Pakistan imported rupees 30 billion worth of more tea than the last fiscal year. Last week, the government unveiled a fresh $47 billion budget for 2022-23 in a bid to convince IMF to restart the $6 billion bailout deal agreed by both parties in 2019. The South Asian nation of 220 million is the world's largest importer of tea, buying more than $640 million worth in 2020, according to the Observatory of Economic Complexity. Pakistan has been facing severe economic challenges for months, leading to an increase in the prices of food, gas, and oil. Meanwhile, its foreign currency reserves are declining rapidly. Funds held by central bank fell from $16.3 billion at the end of February to just above $10 billion in May. According to Reuters, a more than $6 billion drop and enough to cover the cost of 2 months of its imports. Saudi officials are seizing rainbow-colored toys and articles of clothing from shops in the capital as a part of a crackdown on homosexuality, state media reported. Targeted items include rainbow-colored bows, shirts, hats, and pencil cases, most of them apparently manufactured for young children, according to a report broadcast Tuesday evening by the state-run news channel. We are giving a tour of the items that contradict the Islamic faith and public morals and promote homosexual colors targeting the younger generation, says an official from Saudi Arabia, the Commerce Ministry, which is involved in the campaign. Gesturing towards a rainbow flag, a journalist says the homosexuality flag is present in one of the Riyadh markets. The colors send a poisoned message to children. The report says homosexuality is a potential capital offense in Saudi Arabia, known for its strict interpretation of Islamic Sharia law, which forms the basis of its entire judicial system. In April, the kingdom said it had asked Disney to cut LGBTQ references from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the latest Marvel movie, but that Disney had refused. The film ultimately did not screen in Saudi cinemas. Disney's latest animation Lightyear, which features a same sex kiss, has also been banned in Saudi Arabia and more than a dozen other countries. A source close to Disney told AFP Tuesday, though Riyadh has not commented on that film. Sri Lanka has approved a 4-day work week for public sector workers to help them cope with a chronic fuel shortage and encourage them to grow food, the government said on Tuesday as it struggles with its worst financial crisis in decades. The island nation, which employs about 1 million people in its public sector, has been hit by a severe foreign exchange shortage, which has left it struggling to pay for critical imports of fuel, food, and medicine. Many of the country's 22 million people have to queue up at petrol stations for hours and have been enduring long power cuts for months. Sri Lanka's cabinet late on Monday approved a proposal for public sector workers to be given leave every Friday for the next 3 months, partly because the fuel shortage made commuting difficult and also to encourage them to farm. It seems appropriate to grant government officials leave of 1 working day to engage in agricultural activities in their backyards or elsewhere as a solution to the food shortage that is expected, Government Information Office said in a statement. The United Nations last week warned of a looming humanitarian crisis and it plans to provide $47 billion to help more than a million vulnerable people. Currency depreciation, rising global commodity prices, and now a reserved policy to ban chemical fertilizers pushed food inflation to 57% in April. Government is in talks for a bailout package with the International Monetary Fund and a delegation is expected in Colombo on June 20. Beijing will not hesitate to start a war if Taiwan declares independence. China's defense minister warned his US counterpart on Friday in the pair's first face to face talks, officials said. If anyone dares to split Taiwan from China, the Chinese army will definitely not hesitate to start a war no matter the cost. Wu Jian quoted Defense Minister Wei Fenghe as saying during a meeting with Lloyd Austin. The Chinese minister also vowed that Beijing would smash to smithereen any Taiwan independence plot and resolutely uphold the unification of the motherland, according to Chinese Defense Ministry. He stressed that Taiwan is China's Taiwan. Using Taiwan to contain China will never prevail, the ministry said. Austin told his Chinese counterpart during the talks in Singapore that Beijing must refrain from further destabilizing actions towards Taiwan. The US Department of Defense said Taiwan, a self ruled democratic island, lives under the constant threat of invasion by China. Beijing views the island as its territory and has vowed to one day seize it by force if necessary.